Hello again. Well, you're going to find this to be an interesting article on Canada Free Press. Imam Obama comes out at the National Prayer Breakfast. Now, it wasn't so much that he called himself an imam, but everything that he said would have been no different coming from an imam. Matter of fact, it'd be exactly the same. People have forgotten when Obama, way back in 2007, during a New York Times interview, he described the call to prayer as one of the prettiest sounds on earth at sunset. He also recited the entire prayer with a perfect, first-rate Arabic accent. Now, what you have to ask yourself is, when will we be hearing the call from prayer in our villages, in our cities? The church bells are being silenced. How long will it be before they're replaced with imams calling the faithful to prayer? You have to really listen to what he says and try to understand why he's saying what he says. He's trying to justify what ISIL is doing today, similar to what he says the Christians and the Crusaders did 700-800 years ago. Again, he doesn't mention why the Crusaders went to fight in the Middle East. And I've made mention of this more than once. The reason is because the Muslims were slaughtering Christians. Nothing's changed. That's the fundamental problem with this cult. They're back in that era. The rest of the world has progressed. They haven't. You know, I received emails from what obviously is a Muslim, and he can't understand why I feel that they're followers of an evil cult. He himself says he's a moderate, and I asked him, well, how can you be a moderate if you follow the words of the Prophet, which very clearly say all infidels must feel the sword on their necks? What happens is they're all products of their environments. I caught a little bit of Judge Jeanine Pirro, and she had a guest on who was a radical Muslim. He was converted as a very young child. And she asked, how could that happen? And he said, it happens in mosques. They look for those people that they feel don't have much of a future, and they indoctrinate them. In mosques in the Middle East, they'll chop off the hands, they'll chop off the feet of someone that has drifted away from the words of the Prophet Muhammad. They'll stone to death a woman for accusing her of having committed adultery. Little children that are 7 years old participate. They get to watch the brutality taking place. We've seen young children with guns in their hands shooting Iraqi prisoners that were captured by ISIL, shooting them in the head. These children are being conditioned. And this is what this individual said. They're being conditioned to give their life for Allah with the promise of untold riches, untold food, endless virgins. That's why these mentally retarded individuals are so eager to die following jihad. They're told that by them sacrificing their lives, they're giving a free pass to their families to enjoy the same pleasures that they enjoy. Once again, that's why they're so eager to die. We have a radical, extremist, homosexual, Arab, Muslim that is systematically going around and about destroying not only America. He's got his minions doing their dirty work in Israel to get rid of Prime Minister Netanyahu. He's got his minions in England to ensure re-election of David Cameron that thinks the way Obama does. And he's got his minions in Canada to influence the elections there as well. Do you really think he has any intentions of ever stepping down? Why would he do what he's doing in other countries if that were in fact part of his plan? Folks, it isn't. He's not leaving. Read this article on Canada Free Press. Ask yourself, how could the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, talk the way he does about America, about his Christian faith, which he couldn't possibly have? He spent 20 years listening to Reverend Wright, a madman, spew hatred against whites and against America. God damn America. God damn America, your chickens will come home to roost. 20 years of that insanity being spewed. And he wasn't alone. Oprah Winfrey spent much of her Sundays attending that same insane asylum. Can you expect anything other than what we have? Do you see him being reined in it all? I don't. The future for your children and their children is as bleak as the color of my shirt. That's sort of what I think. You can't begin to imagine how I wish that weren't the case. But being somewhat of a realist, I see it the way it is. Do you see it any differently? If you do, you're not looking.